important in his life became not so important in his life anymore. His highest level and attainment in this world suddenly became, as he said, dumb, the lowest of importance to him. He was willing then to sacrifice his own life for the message of Jesus Christ because he was convinced Jesus was alive from the dead. Here he uses this terminology in Galatians 6:14. He says, "The world has been crucified to me." In other words, it's dead to me now. The world's authority and control over his life is dead now. So, and I think this is a principle. He says, "May I never boast except in the cross." So now he's saying, what is most important in my life now, and that which I want to tell others about, is the cross of Jesus Christ. No longer does it have to do with his attainment and his position and his accomplishments in this world, even though those things were important things for his life and they helped to build him into the person he was that day. But as far as his salvation was concerned, and as far as his what was most important in his life now, the cross of Christ became the most important in his life. Now, if you see this really changes. This turns everything upside down. As far as how we look at life, it turns everything upside down. Because the whole world is looking at what made Paul great. And then he met Jesus. And suddenly, those who were his closest associates became his enemies. Because his world completely was turned upside down. Now, that's by way of introduction, okay? So let's look at do not love the world, this simple command that's given here. Do not love the world. In back to our text in 1 John 2:15. Do not love the world or anything in the world. The first sentence of that verse, do not love the world, in the first part of the sentence. Now, he gives a command. John's giving a command here. And we are definitely ordered and given commands, even in the New Testament. We're given commands. They're quite different from the Old Testament commands. We're given them in the New. And in this case, it's the command not to love the world. Now, we know, and from studying John, love is one of those really important concepts that John teaches in the gospel and also here. I mean, that's where we get, for God so loved the world. We get love one another, and not to hate any longer, but to love each other. So he calls them with this strong command, do not love the world. Now I want to talk about that command today. Love God, love our brothers. We've already looked at this in the text because he mentioned in chapter 2, verse 5, if anyone that obeys his word, God's love is truly made complete in him. And by knowing God and desiring his truth, then God's love is at work in that person's life. And then in verse 10 of 1 John 2, he said, whoever loves his brother lives in the light. Whoever loves his brother lives in the light. And so there it is. Love God, love our brothers. Do not love the world. Now get this, okay? The love of the world and the love of the Father are mutually exclusive affections. The love of the world and the love of the Father are mutually exclusive affections. That means we can't love the world and love God. We can't do that. We can't love God and love the world. They're mutually exclusive. It's an either-or situation. Now, Jesus put it this way, and this is a little different verse, but I think it'll be familiar to you. In Matthew chapter 6, verse 24. Matthew 6:24. When you find it, somebody read that.
No one can serve two masters. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money.
God and money. The Old King James mammon, which is basically the same meaning. So he gives several statements here. One, he gives a clear, Jesus, this is in the Sermon on the Mount, so it's the very heart of what Jesus taught. And so at the very heart of what Jesus taught, to be a believer, a follower of Christ means this: we cannot serve two masters. Now, it must be a problem that plagues us because we live in the world, or John wouldn't have repeated the teaching. You see what I'm saying? So I think it's a problem we're all confronted with. We cannot serve two masters. Who is our master? So we have to look at our Christian faith that way. Who is our master? And so he says, we cannot serve two masters. You're going to hate the one, love the other, or be devoted to one and despise the other. It's going to cause all kinds of conflict in our mind, our life. Actually, chaos occurs because we're faced with this. We have to make this kind of choice. And, you know, in a sense, when we come to Jesus Christ, we're saying we draw the line in the sand. An old saying, we draw the line in the sand. We step over. So we receive Christ, okay? But that's just the beginning. That's only the beginning. We're going to be challenged in this way all throughout our life. Who is our master? Who is our Lord? What is it that dominates our life? What is it that rules us? We'll be constantly challenged this way. And so Jesus had to make the teaching early on for his disciples. You can't serve God and money. You just cannot do both. It doesn't say money's not important. It's not saying we don't use money. It doesn't say it's a sin to make money or to have a lot of money. It's not saying that. It's saying you cannot serve God and serve money because there's a direct conflict in the two. One of the two will win the battle in your life. One of the two. So we have to decide, surrender to the Master. Jesus is Lord. Amen? Now, let's go to the second. The extent of this command. The extent. He says, do not love the world or anything in the world. The extent of this command, anything in the world. Now, this is a strong statement. And when you think about it this way, I'm reading from the NIV 84. He says, do not love the world or anything. That's the extent of the statement. Anything in the world. And I think it must mean that it has to do with that which is connected to this world system. Anything in the world. I don't think it's saying we're not supposed to love our parents. I don't think it's telling us that we're not supposed to like the kind of work we do. I don't think it's telling us those things. Or we're not supposed to love our children. I don't think it's saying that. But I think the extent of the command is that do not love the world. Anything in the world should never, ever, nothing in the world should never, ever take precedent over our love for God. I think that's what he's saying. And he's repeating it this way to help us. That which is in opposition to the love of the Father is what the world is. Anything that's in opposition to the love of God. Anything that's in opposition. Now, the world system, the world's ideas, that are contrary to God and the Bible. The world's ideas that are how do we know what God's will is? We have to look in the Bible to see God's will. We have to. How else will we know God's will? Your pastor is limited. I can teach you certain limited things from the Bible. We only are given a short time each week. Very limited. And the rest of the time I am inundated with the world system. Inundated. Completely. We get outside the when we think about our 1 or 1.5 sacred hour on Sunday, this is it. The rest of the time, and if we're not in the Christian family too, if we're not in the Christian family, then we've got that struggle at home, because the world system dominates most people's thinking. If we're not in a Christian school, then we are inundated by the world's thinking. And even in the Christian school, the world's thinking can overcome us. We have to be very, very careful about these things. So the only way we're going to know the will of God and be able to walk in it is if we are careful to know what God has said. To know what God has said. Now, the extent of the world's ideas, the world's system, the world's temptations, okay? Now, that gets to our flesh, and we're going to look at the cravings of sinful man next. So let's go ahead and go to this. The content of the command. We've looked at the extent, now the content. Everything in the world. And he lists 3 things, and it depends on the version, because there's, as far as there being 3, he says the cravings of sinful man. He says the world and its desires are going to pass away. He says the lust of the eyes. I only included this first one here, the lust of the eyes. And he said the boasting of what he has and does. Now, the New King James, I think the Old King James Version too, both would say the pride of life. The NIV extended it and said it's a boasting of what a man has and does. And I really like that, because life is about it's about what we have, and it's about what we do. That makes up what our life is about. It's about what we have, and it's about what we do. And the temptation is to boast about either one or both. That's the temptation. That's what the world does. Boast about all what they have and what they do. That's what they do. And when men get together, what do we talk about? We talk what kind of work do we do? And what do we have? How have we excelled? This is what we discuss. Okay? And here, John is touching on those things. Okay? And first, he talks about the cravings of sinful man. Now, again, the old translation was the lust of the flesh, which basically are ungodly desires. Things in the world, ungodly desires, unlawful physical gratification. Desires that go against God's purpose and plan. I think that's really a good definition. Desires that we have that go against God's purpose and plan for our life. And for living a holy life. Because God not only wants us saved, He wants us godly. He wants us living for Him. He wants our life to be lined up with what does it mean to follow Jesus. He wants us to live in a godly way. Many things could apply to the craving of the sinful man. But certainly the 7th command applies here. Definitely the 7th command applies. What is number 7? Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not commit adultery. It definitely applies here. Okay? There's many things that could apply, but this definitely applies in this to the cravings of sinful man. That ungodly desires that go against God's purpose and plan for living a holy life. Secondly, I'm sorry, I don't have it up here. Secondly, he says the lust of his eyes. The lust of his eyes. Verse 16. The cravings of sinful man, the lust of his eyes. The 10th command applies here. What is the 10th? Yeah, do not covet. Do not covet. The coveting is basically seeing something that someone else has and you're not satisfied unless you have it. That's coveting. It's that sense of not satisfied. That's coveting. So he says, the lust of the eyes. It could fit into the category of sinful imagination or emotions even. Not satisfied because you don't have what others have and you want it badly. That's coveting. Coveting. It's actually the root of many of the commands comes into number 10. Because what does a thief do? The Bible says not to steal. And even the Apostle Paul brought that command over into the New Testament. He said, you who used to steal, steal no more. That was Paul's version of that command, not to steal. But what is stealing anyway? It's seeing what someone else has and you want it so badly you take it for yourself. That's stealing. And it's wrong. It's not only wrong against that person, and you could get arrested for it, go to prison. It's not only wrong in that sense, but it's a breaking of God's command. Okay? And so he says the lust of his eyes.